Welcome back to episode 38 of the first tour of Europe by Gilmore's band. In fact, the first tour of any musical organization of Europe, almost 20 something years before John Philip Sousa. This grand scheme, it says there, was devised by Gilmore to, as it also said, to tour 100 cities throughout Europe. It was greeted with shock in America, but also in Europe because they didn't know what to expect. Here's a letter from London, and Gilmore is termed as the fearless and indomitable Gilmore. They didn't know what to expect. So he had prepared, and in May of 1878, himself and his 65 musicians set sail on the City of Berlin for Europe. This was the fastest ship at the time across the Atlantic. It took 8 days, and it was called a blue-ribboned steamship. On the lower half of this ground plan, I suppose, of the ship, you see the mention of saloon. That'll become very important because this was now going to become the site of the first concert that ever took place in mid-Atlantic by a full concert band. 2,000 miles from New York, roughly halfway between the two cities. In the middle of the Atlantic, on board the City of Berlin, May the 11th, 1878. How delightful it is to say today to a young lady, yours truly, P S Gilmore. And then down the bottom left-hand corner, the notation in 6/8 time for the intro to When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again. He was delighted. He was excited. He had letters of introduction like this one here. I take great pleasure in stating that Gilmore's band, an organization that has earned a national reputation, is recognized throughout this country as a military band of the very highest order. They're having given over 500 concerts in New York alone is sufficient testimony of their popularity in this city. And here is that letter in the handwriting of the mayor. And it says at the bottom there, our citizens are basically delighted that Gilmore, they've no doubt of his ability, etc., etc. And so this was a letter of introduction that would be shown to dignitaries and people who hadn't a clue, maybe, of what Gilmore was, and what he played. Here's the concert I referred to in the Grand Saloon. 300 people at it. They had done a collection for the benefit of the Seamen's Orphans Home in Liverpool. £500 was collected, and here's the concert that they played. When they arrived in Liverpool, the first port of call was this magnificent hall here, St. George's Hall. It's still standing. I was in it 3 years ago in Liverpool itself. And they were very lucky and honoured to be offered the hall free of charge by the mayor of Liverpool at the time, the Earl of Derby. And here's some views of the hall itself, very ornate, beautiful floors, terrazzo floors, I suppose they would be termed. And up at the top there, you see the stained glass window. Here's a better view of it, of St. George on his white horse slaying the dragon. When you go into this hall, you can visualize the excitement that would have existed when Gilmore's band played their concerts there. After this concert, indeed, they went to Dublin, and sorry, before I leave St George's Hall, here is the actual advertisement for that, and the concerts in the hall were for the Hospital for Consumption and Chest Diseases, a hospital I believe that doesn't exist today. Their vocalist on the tour was Miss Lillian Norton, a soprano. The honour that was conferred upon the organisation at Liverpool is mentioned here. Gilmore's band was in luck. Let them learn the full value of the compliment paid to them. The doors of St George's Hall never opened to a performance free of charge except by special miracle have been opened to them. Widows, orphans, the sick, the afflicted, etc. Now, here is a very quick view of their appearance in Dublin. They had 6 concerts, appeared to over 20,000 people. Gilmore was recognised as the hero coming home from America, one of the few that had basically left during the famine and returned, an absolute success. The trains were called Gilmore Specials, and they came from all over the country. Here's another advertisement, this one from Birmingham, I believe. And again, it gives you an idea of how they were greeted all over the country. And again, in Sheffield, a military concert of unique interest was given last night in the Albert Hall by the band of the 22nd Regiment of New York, better known as Gilmore's Band. It is no doubt pretty generally understood that this body of musicians taking part in a representative capacity in the musical performances, etc., should be read by all. And here's another chance to read that article about the distinguished honour conferred on the organisation at Liverpool. At the very end, it says, Gilmore's band with its 60 performers, brass and reed, and with its 2 lady vocalists singing Yankee Doodle, merely cries open sesame, the other side of the Atlantic. This tour was now beginning to get coverage not only in the United Kingdom and Ireland, but throughout Europe, as well as obviously back home. Here's 2 examples from Germany, but also the French, the Belgians, and the Dutch were all very, very, very interested in what this new band could do that their existing fantastic bands could not. And so Gilmore was getting more publicity than he maybe sought or realized at that moment in time. This was a whole new level of publicity that he had no idea of whatsoever. Here's mention of Gilmore again from New York. Monsieur Gilmore. And from Crystal Palace in London, on May the 21st and 22nd, Gilmore's band from America, military choral and ballad concert. And again, at the bottom there, it says that one of the conductors is Mr. P S Gilmore. I should point out another one of the conductors was none other than Dan Godfrey of the Royal Grenadier Guards, who was offered the baton at one of the concerts by Gilmore, and he delightfully took it and conducted Gilmore's band. Here's an interior of the actual Crystal Palace itself, with its plants and so on. A slightly larger version of his own Gilmore's concert garden back home. And on that program, it also had excerpts from some of the reviews from Liverpool, a matter of a few days beforehand, what the Liverpool press said about their performances. During their tour, they appeared to over 250,000 people, 65 concerts in 30 odd days. They travelled an estimated 3,000 miles by train. And here is an idea of, for instance, on those 2 days in Crystal Palace, how they were advertised as well. So, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the first tour of Europe by Gilmore's band. Look forward to having you back here next week. And please click like and subscribe. And most importantly as well, please refer this to all of your friends, particularly if they're interested,